Yeah, my Anioma brothers and sisters, great patriots who have been taking time to follow this my series on Anioma identity, vis-a-vis the issue of trying to lump Anioma people into the Southeast geopolitical zone. As I've often stated, and I want to state it for the uptenth time, that I do not support the present creation of Anioma state. First, I have my reasons. First, there is no economic, no stated, either stated or unstated, economic gain benefit for Anioma people joining the Southeast geopolitical zone. No single one, no single economic benefit. There's no political benefit for Anioma people joining Southeast geopolitical zone. No single political benefit. Except if people are now terming Eastern Security Network, IPOB, sit at home, unrivaled kidnapping and killing of fellow Igbo members. If that's the political benefit people are talking about, we are not for that. We've seen people from Egbema in Imo State, people from the Egbema section of Ohaji, Egbema local government area of Imo State, protesting that they want to join their kit and kin in River State. Is that? We are seeing people from Aguata local government, especially the member representing Aguata, Urumba at the Federal House of Representatives. Lady saying that they cannot join all people to form a state because they are culturally different. They are culturally incompatible. That's within Southeast geopolitical zone. We've seen Enugu State and Ebonyi State saying that in the case of future introduction or reversion to the old regional system, they will not join the present Anambra, Imo, and Abia states. These are within the same Southeast. And I will see Ikwere people, Eche people, from the old eastern region of Nigeria, saying that they are not Igbo, denying their Igbo identity, and denying any historical or cultural or even political association with the Igbo of Southeast. And we've seen there are more than 20 Igbo-speaking communities in the present Kogi state. And no effort is being made to bring them, incorporate them into the Southeast geopolitical zone because of the obvious adverse effects. I grew up in Nsukka, the university town, #1 university town of Southeast. And I know how Nsukka people feel when it comes to the issue of integration with other Igbo areas. I fought a battle as a student for the preservation of peace and security in this state. First as a student, second as a lecturer in support of Professor Udala, when his own fellow men, his own fellow Abia State men went after him, a vice chancellor who came to develop the University of Nigeria. I fought for peace and security to reign at the University of Nigeria and Nsukka, when the same Southeast people, particularly from Enugu State, fought against the vice chancellor, one of the progressive vice chancellors University of Nigeria had ever produced, Professor Patokolo, fought against him. We also saw how these Southeasterners went against Professor Ndele, the iconic developer, iconic modern developer of the present university, structurally, of the present University of Nigeria. We saw how they went after him and disgraced him out of office, only to regret after. So even the present vice chancellor, new vice chancellor at the University of Nigeria, I knew the number of people who had called me telling me, why should I? Not even from other Igbo areas, but from Nsukka. Trying to come to tell me that man is the Suju of Modo and Ojibegene people, Ikohe people are not really Nsukka people. So the man is not representing Nsukka people. I said, what? As far as we are concerned, Ukehe belongs to Nsukka zone. And that man, moreover, we saw how Dr. Kwesileze was, went to Arise Television. I was in fact embarrassed because of his agitation for the vice chancellor. He was embarrassed. In fact, he embarrassed himself seriously. Because with his own level, he shouldn't have come to the national television to talk about the sectionalization of headship of an academic institution, which ordinarily should have been by merit. Then people are telling me, oh, we should go. But I thought, no. The Modos fought for it. They were embarrassed for it. So whoever they want to be there, that is the benefit of their struggle. So you don't tell me, these are people from Southeast, not just from Southeast, but from Nsukka zone, telling me, oh, we should go against their fight. For what? But these are the issues. These are part of the issues I fought against. For those who know my antecedents at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, as an activist, these are the things. Look, I cannot imagine we hear people who fought against their people. The same people who are fighting for their progress. And I've witnessed it in this my struggle. The greatest enemies I have are the Igbo people who even collect money. Go ahead with Fulani people to extinguish my life. I had a broken hip, not by a Fulani man, but an Igbo man who collected money from Fulani to extinguish my life. These are the nature. They don't think back about it. They don't think back about it. They are not talking about Nnamdi Kanu. Releasing Nnamdi Kanu, releasing. Imagine if Sunday Igboho was in Nnamdi Kanu, and that judge handling his case was an Igbo man, and Igboho went ahead to insult the man, discredit the court, post in the court. What would the Igbo people have taken it? Oh, Igbo was doing it because the judge was an Igbo man. Now, of course, no Igbo judge could have tolerated the truancy and insubordination of Nnamdi Kanu there in the open court. They were exalting him, praising him. Oh, you are strong, you are strong. Something that you cannot tolerate. You're allowing another person to swallow it, hook, line, and sinker. No Igbo judge should have tolerated that nonsense Nnamdi Kanu performed in the open court before that Yoruba judge. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about the crimes against humanity committed by IPOB in Nnamdi Kanu, even from his entourage, is commanding that to commit. At Southeast, many people killed. Indigenous Igbo people killed on their homeland by IPOB. Nobody's talking about it. It is releasing Nnamdi Kanu. Releasing for what? Somebody will refuse to defend himself. These are the kind of people we have who are leaders. And that's it. When we say, look, I fought for the Igbo. I risked my life for the Igbo. And I can still risk it. On the right path this time. But you are fighting for people who have who lack self-criticism. Who lack the spirit of moral self-judgment. If I'm put in a position today, Nnamdi Kanu will be withdrawn from that prison life sentence and face crimes against humanity. He and his group committed in the Southeast geopolitical zone. People, we have evidence of genocide. Fulani committed genocide in Enugu State. Committed genocide in Enugu State, in a Nimbu Babi. Over 40 people killed. Committed genocide in a Halumana. In Ebonyi State, in Anambra State, nobody, no Anambra person, even those dancing over big chicken in UK, in United States of America, none of them are tried. None of them have tried to bring up this case before the American Congress House Committee debating the genocide against Christians. No, what they were talking there about Nnamdi Kanu, Biafra. Nonsense, my Biafra. I've told them anything Biafra, don't cross the river Niger and come to our side and talk about Biafra. And that is why people are averse to any idea of joining the Southeast. Because you are looking at people whose money making is not futuristic in terms of their existence in this country. Today, Middle Belters are there, putting evidence of genocide. Tomorrow, by the time America announces benefit, compensation for those whose communities suffered genocide, the South is now called, oh, we were killed, we were marginalized. But you have started marginalizing yourself. And that was what happened before the war that caused the pogrom. That was what happened for the failure of the January 15, 1966 military coup that eventually turned to be interpreted as an Igbo coup because of the mismanagement of the coup. Since Southeast people, Civil War was also mismanaged. Some people were busy fighting. Some people were carrying money made for the position, for purchase of arms and ammunition. And nobody is fleeing Southeast. And the same people are talking about Biafrans. Please, let's look at the basic thing. As I said, Anyoma people cannot join the Southeast. That is one point. Politically, morally, we are incompatible. Any Anyoma person who has been to the Southeast, go there on sacrificial level. I sacrifice myself with diligent patriotism. They did the same. Our people, actually, who fought in the Civil War, commander-based commanders, and foot soldiers, did the same, convincingly, in sacrificial manner. Even when the Southeast forced our people into the war, into the Civil War, we were not part of the Civil War. Midwest region was neutral in the Civil War. They forced us in the name of Weibo. And they're trying to bring it again in the issue of Anyoma state creation. You have the chance. You can balkanize. After all, not every state in this federation is viable economically. So you can create any part of the Southeast as your own state. Leave Anyoma land alone. Even with the insults emanating from scallywags, insulting our leaders, insulting everybody. Don't Anyoma people have the right to decide where they will go? Must we be forced through insults and abuses? So we're not joining it. I'm happy. I'm glad that our political representatives today, the members of House of Rep, the members of House of Assembly, and the 9 local government areas have taken their decision on that aspect. And we're telling you, this is the way we look. We are multi-ethnic, even though we speak Igbo. You are not happy to associate with people who speak your language. But you want even those who don't speak your language, who are not Igbo among them, to be forced into becoming Igbo. What do we call that? Is that not crude local colonialism? So that is my position. And that is where I now come to the issue of today. Over the statement by my traditional ruler, Obi Professor Chelun Onwoboshi, the Obuzor of Ibusa, against the Asaba people and Asaba of Asaba on their Igala identity. And that is what I'm going to address today. That's what I'm going to address today. We know that the clandestine nature of Moko's futile attempt to force our people into the Southeast geopolitical zone made him got alienated by many traditional rulers. Many traditional rulers. So he had not even his own traditional ruler, Idumujuboko, isolated him. He was alone. Thereafter, he started scouting for roguish traditional rulers. First, he got the Obi of Idumujuboko. Sorry, Obi of Idumujuno. His Royal Highness Obi Charles Anyase III, who went on Tinubu's TV to announce that the Igbo, that Anioma people are Igbo, and I support our journey in the Southeast. Today, I'm going to prove that the man announcing that Anioma people should go to the Southeast is not, and I repeat, is not ancestrally of Igbo origin, but they don't. Similarly, my own Obuzor, Obi Professor Louis Chelon went to China's TV and not only declared, he had made the first statement on online, I put him right, but he went again on Chinese TV to take to take a frontal attack against the Asaba and Asaba people, trying to redefine their own history against the customary tradition of Anioma people. A traditional ruler has no right to question the historical identity of a fellow traditional ruler unless they are in a defined conflict like land matters or issues that matter on political privilege. But this is Obuzor's action was roguish. And today I'm going to prove that Obuzor of Ibusa, Professor Chelon is himself of Edo origin. So we are seeing two Edo origin, two Edo ancestrally oriented monarchs. The Obi of Idumujuno, His Royal Highness Obi Charles Anyase III, and the Obuzor of Ibusa will be Professor Chelon Louis Chelon coming to redirect or redefine the totality of Anioma identity, when both of them are indeed of Edo origin. If they don't know, I have to tell them, because it is left for the historian or people from allied disciplines to do so. Even the Asaba of Asaba, His Royal Majesty will be Professor Epiphany Azinke, who is a lawyer by training, who is a legal professional by training, has always been cautious in driving his own position. He will put it. Maybe I'm not speaking like Asaba of Asaba, but I'm speaking as Obi Epiphany Azinke as a person. By doing so, he's giving dissenting voices in Asaba their right to object. That is an intellectual thing. That's even notwithstanding the fact that the law, legal profession, or legal studies is an extension of history. It is part of what we define as applied history. Because everything they do by precedence. So legal profession is an extension of history. Yet he was very cautious not to be general, not to be holistic in his definition of identity and his position with respect to Anioma people moving to the Southeast geopolitical zone. So today, I'm going to look at, let us even listen to Obi Professor Chelon what he said concerning the Asaba of Asaba and Asaba people. I'm saying this because when I speak as a professional historian. Not only as a professional historian, I speak as an individual. But when a traditional ruler speaks from his throne without exemption, he speaks on probably, of course, generally, officially, on behalf of the people he represents as their ruler. And that is why I've said it earlier, that Obuzor's frontal attack, I think, against the Asaba of Asaba and Asaba people does not enjoy the support of Ibusa people. On that respect, I want to reassert that he is on his own and not on behalf of Ibusa people. And we know that both of them, both will be Professor Chelun Onwoboshi and Obi Charles Anyase, are all proxy traditional rulers. Because real traditional rulers, whose foundation are ritually based, guided by the fine customs and tradition of their people, will not speak so recklessly about another people, the identity of a fellow traditional ruler, or the collective identity of a people diversely represented by Igbo ethnic group, Yoruba ethnic group, Igala ethnic group, Isoke ethnic group, Urobo ethnic group, Ijo ethnic group, Benin ethnic group, Eastern ethnic group, collectively. And somebody who calls himself a traditional is coming to say all of you are Igbo, whether you like it or not. These are issues that I feel that, sorry, these are issues I feel we have to address. Because our people say, when an abomination, when abomination is allowed to thrive without question for a year, it automatically becomes the tradition or custom and tradition of the people. Let us even hear what the Obuzor of Ibusa said concerning Asaba. I'm saying this because Asaba has the advantage which most people, which we other towns did not have, because Asaba saw the white men much earlier than every one of us, every town. And the history of Asaba can be traced to 1875, as far back as 1875, when the Anglican mission entered Asaba. And that is why we historians, when we're looking at such things, we go further. Anybody who wants to get the authentic history of Asaba people earlier, even our people, maybe you go to CMS archive now in UK. The Anglican, yes, the Catholic mission came in 1888, and earlier interactions, much of our history outside the colonial intelligence report that started from 1900. Anything before that 1900, recorded by the Roman Catholic. You go to SMA archives in Lyon, southern France, you get them. So Asaba has rich materials on their history, which Ibusa and other Anima people do not enjoy. The same thing applies to the Igbo of the Southeast. The Anglicans came to Onitsha 1857, while the Roman Catholics came 1885 under Holy Ghost fathers. So if you want to look at the history of the Southeast, especially with respect to areas operated by the Holy Ghost fathers, you move back. You go direct to the archives. Maybe in Ireland, to the Holy Ghost Father archives, and you get it. So history is not something somebody will just wake up and start recounting. As I started earlier in the debut of this book, I said, look, Anioma State is a literate society. Anioma people are literate people. It's not a situation where people can come in because you wear the toga of professor, you start talking on the areas you are not educated on. I said that the history, if you want to speak on Anioma history, you have to tell us your pedigree. Because any academic knows that there is clear disciplinary boundaries. Even within a particular discipline, as I stated earlier, there are specialization. There are boundaries of specialization. So it is ridiculous for Professor Chelun Onwoboshi, the Obuzor of Ibusa, to come, who is Professor of Forestry from University of Ibusa, to come and educate us on Asaba history. Let us hear him. After hearing him, I will now bring some other facts. I will take down what he said point by point, and then we go to other aspects of history. First, after this, after stating his own case here, I will analyze it. After analyzing his statement, in line with the best practices of historical profession, I now go back to his own history to prove to him that he's actually of Benin origin. I will go also to the Obi of Idumujuna to say that he's already of Edo origin. And I will now go back to prove that Asaba people, by the Asaba of Asaba, claiming that it's of Igala origin, is backed historically. And let us hear what Obuzor of Ibusa said. I heard with shock when it was reported that Asaba people did not come from Unteja. That is not true. Asaba is a direct child of Unteja. Previous Asaba of Asaba, including late Professor Chike Edozie, publicly acknowledged that acknowledge their Unteja origin, sorry. The Unteja origin during visits and interactions with Anambra monarchs, identical cultural institutions, 8-quarter Ezi system. I am quoting what Obuzor stated on Arise Television and reported in many newspapers. I lifted this quotation direct from the Guardian newspaper version of his statement. Let me continue. Identical cultural institutions. This 8-quarter, in parentheses, is system. Ulieze title, coronation rites, and Igala masquerade prove common ancestry. Nebisi was the 3rd son of Eze Nteje through Diaba, granddaughter of Eri. This is not a matter for debate. It is settled history among various custodians of Anioma and Igbo tradition, unquote, by my own professor. Now, let me take it this way. And before I take it, let me state obviously, make it clear that intellectually, it's not only that I'm a proud historian, but I am the known expert of Igbo history with respect to Nri history and culture today in Igbo land, among my colleagues in the university, in both University of Nigeria and universities in Nigeria and abroad. So that is my area of expertise. I've done a lot. I've done numerous scholarly works on that. And I have 2 mainland books right there on the internet, online. One published in Nigeria by Snap, the other one published in the United States of America, on Nri. So that is my own area today. So for my own traditional to now start telling us fake histories of Nri is unacceptable. We also know that I am Abiodogo of Ibusa. I am the expert on that field. Let us even take it one by one. The issue in question here is not whether Nebisi came from Nteje to Asaba to settle. It's not issue. There's no contest about it. The issue is whether Nebisi was of Nteje origin or of Igala origin. These are the 2 issues. Asaba tradition agrees that Diaba, the mother of Nebisi, was of Nteje origin. That is Asaba tradition. His mother was of Nteje origin, of an Igala father, or named Onojobo. So this is established fact. So Asaba people are not saying that Nebisi did not come from Nteje, but their position is that yes, Onojobo impregnated Diaba, an Nteje woman who was a housemaid, house help to Ezanyanwu there in Asaba, and left. And when Ezanyanwu discovered that Diaba was pregnant, she was sent back to Nteje, where she had in Nebisi. Nebisi grew up as a young, promising man. And from one event or the other, of course, one event happened. To put it right here, what was that? According to a version of the tradition, a cow meant for sacrifice at Nteje escaped, and the young men in the community were asked to chase it and catch it. And the rule is that any man who catches the cow will be entitled to the tail of the cow. Nebisi subsequently caught the cow, but when it came to the issue of giving him the tail, as required by tradition, they said they will not give it to him, that they don't know his father. To them, they didn't know his father, and he was not a bona fide Nteje indigenous, so he was denied it. So he went back crying and told his mother, where is my father? Tell me my father. And for that reason, the mother had to tell him the story. So Nebisi now went back to Asaba to search for his father, Onojobo. By the time he got there, both Ezanyanwu, the mother's former master, and Onojobo, his father, had already gone. He could not locate them. So he decided to settle in Asaba. That is the official position. So the Obuzor of Ibusa telling us that Nebisi was the son of the third son of a king of Nteje is false and unfounded, because first, historically at that time, there was no king in Nteje, and we all knew how kingship evolved in the present Southeast through the colonial, from warren chiefs to colonial imposition and so forth. So there was no king in Nteje at the time. So that is fault number one. No king. Secondly, the Obuzor did not tell us the name of the king. The name of the king. He did not tell us that one. So it is that fourth line is there. He did not tell us the name of the king, and there the Nteje history is there, clear. And Obuzor did not even know the history of Nteje. And let me make it clear, as an expert in his study, I've been a historical consultant to several towns in Anambra over their history. And I'm still one to some today, even while in exile. Nteje is an Igala settlement founded by Igala hunters, specializing in the hunting of leopards. And that is the meaning of Nteje. Nta, well, you can see it from the one version, but the issue that Eje means leopard in Igala. So they were known as Ndinta Eje, hunters of leopard. But some Igala version will tell you, oh, it was Ntu Eje. That is the part of leopard. But the real thing is that the Igbo people are around now nicknamed them Ndinta Eje because they were referring to what they were hunting as Eje. It's from Ndinta Eje, Nta Eje, that it became Nteje. So Nteje is a pure Igala settlement, like most communities in present Oyi, Anambra East, Anambra West, and Anyamenu local government areas. These are these three local. These are yes, 4 local government areas have clusters of Igala communities, and in none of these communities, could it be stated that the Igala people were the original settlers around that side. No, they were all immigrants. Let us even start in Aguleri today, which is claimed wrongfully to be the heartland or whatever they call it of Igbo land, the homeland of Igbo land or Aboriginal settlement of strong. If you even look at Erie, account, tradition of migration recorded by people like Jeffries, Boston, and a lot of them. You find that when Erie arrived, Oka people were already there. Oka people were already operating. And if you look at the present Igala history, after Igala history, you find out as far back as remote period, Oka blacksmith had been part of the Ategala. Of course, the present Ategala has visited Oka about 2 times or 3 times since his coronation to affirm the ancestral league of their official blacksmiths with Oka. So Oka people have been there. And who was Eri? Eri was an Igala warrior who was driven around the 16th century. Let me be precise because it was recorded by Portuguese Benin recorders. It was 1515 AD. That was when Benin forces raided Igala land and drove away the reigning Igala leader. Remember, the name Igala was derived from Igala was the leader. So the original name for Igala was Okpoto or Akpoto. So the Igala area was the leader, driven by Benin forces, who now imposed the Atta dynasty. Aji Atta, who was the second son of the Oba of Benin, and then the younger brother of Oba Esige of Benin, who now took over and imposed the Atta dynasty. And that was why the idea of Atta developing as the name of father now came in. Atta was not an original Igala term. It was later in the 17th century that the Jukun forces now invaded the Igala kingdom, removed the Atta dynasty, and then put in the Jukun dynasty now, which is reigning. So the present Atta Igala originated from Wukari, Jukun, Kwararafa. That is the present Atta Igala, came from there. So a remove down, escaped through Anambra River. And if you look at Anambra River, if you take, because you move into just very close, just a little bit beyond Ampa. So Anambra River has been the artery of communication between upland Igala and lower Igala and lower the present, let me say, lower Anambra Basin. People by Anambra State, by the present Igbo people. That's been an artery. And that was through where the area escaped. And came to where? And came to Aguleri and landed there. And when he landed at Aguleri, there were people already settled. You opposed it. Who constitute the senior quarter in Aguleri today. Aguleri is made up of 3 major quarters. You opposed it with other 8 villages, mixed up with other Igbo migrants today, which is the head of Ivite. Ivite is the head village. Then followed by Igwezunu, or collectively known as Ikenga, Igwezunu and Umunkete. These are core Igala settlement in Aguleri. Igwezunu, people by the followers of Eri, and Umunkete, which is on the road on the Adani Onitsha road, Nsoko Onitsha road, just 2 miles after the main Aguleri return. There you have Umunkete, people by the followers of Onojo Oponi, who did not follow him in his retreat from Aguleri, after conquering Aguleri, Anambra people, history to Ogurugu, they decided to settle there at Umunkete. And that is why both Umunkete and the Ibezunu are called Igala people there. Then you are going to what are the Ugunade or Enugu Aguleri, Enugu and these are a collection of immigrants from different areas, Igala and so on and so forth. There are a lot of Igala communities. So other people now came and formed that Enugu and Aguleri. These are later immigrants. So all those cock and bull stories about Obuzor, those people who came there to from Israel is scam, historical scam. Nothing like Obuzor. These are immigrants from Igala and surrounding Igbo communities claiming to be the head of Igbo. Well, there's no major communities in Igbo land where you have Henry. There have always been traditional Igbo people settled there. Iguariam had Nudu people settled before Onogu came there. Enugu Ezike, Enugu and Northfia and other areas. They have people, Nimo people, Oka people settled before they came there and settled. Are we talking Inri? Inri town is owned by the Adama Umudana people who were there before Inri people migrated. The first set, I can't say, moved from Aguleri through Achala town, the present local government headquarters of Okana local government area, from Achala, and settled with Umudiana and Sepe people very, very close to Ezu, the president known as Aguleri, settled there. The Aguku people now later came from Aguleri through Ubene, then to their present place. So, these are if you look at Aguku location, you look at Enugu location, you find that those areas have problem of agricultural, agricultural productivity, including North. They are hilly, rocky, and so on and so forth. Enugu was known as Nkuma Onileni. To show you the size of the rocks there, the rocks there were very strong, to the point that elephants could not push them. That was why it was Nkuma Onileni before they become Enugu, from Enugu Oka to Enugu Ukuna. So we know how this is. So for Obuzor to tell us that Diaba was the daughter of Eri. Who was Eri? Who was Diaba? Who was Eri and who was Diaba? Who told him who gave him the story? The oldest indigenous history of Aguleri people, the history of Aguleri, written by Prince MCM Idigo, direct son of the first imposed Idigo, Eze Idigo of Aguleri. MCM, he wrote it. Is imposed by missionaries and then the colonial masters. This direct son of Ogbuefi Idigo, the first traditional ruler of Aguleri. He wrote it, published in 1950. And I refer people to read from pages 5 and 6, where he stated that Eri was an Igala man who fled from Aguleri, from Eda, and then came there and settled among the people. And with time, developed affinity with them, spoke their language, and they lived together. That's from a prince of Aguleri. History of Aguleri. It's an old book, so one can locate it at National Archive in Enugu, or maybe Nnamdi Azikiwe Library, University of Nigeria, at Africana section. It's a relatively old book, and I've supported all this with interviews, field works. So somebody cannot come and tell us cook and book story about Diaba being this the tail son of Eri or whatever. Even if we accept it to be the tail son of Eri, the tail daughter of Eri, who was her father? Obi Professor the Obuzor of Ibusa could not tell us. He could not tell us. So we are past the stage of that scam, because the present areas now you are talking about, like you come to Anya Melum, it's a mixture. Anya Melum, the Anya Melum. We settled there because of cause of war. It's a result of Igala, Igbo, Igala Benin wars and invasion of Onojobon that many people fled to that place. And there are a lot of people from that Anya Melu down to Ida. You have mixture to Nsoka. You have mixture of Igala people and Igbo. In fact, after Anya Melu, when you cross the Obina Bridge from Omasiago into Adan, the core communities there, known as Oboli clan, are pure Igala, Ibaji. Speaking Igala, when you talk of Adan, the commercial headquarters of also one local government area. You have Asaba, you talk of Ega, you talk of Ojo, you talk of Ogurugu. These are all Igala speaking people who were pushed into the present Enugu state. They are called Igala people. Igbo, yes, majority of Igbo people migrated from Umungalago village in Ivita. But a section of them is Igala. Omo is 100% Igala. They are no longer speaking Igala now. But when they are making their own Oriki and Walker, they will tell you Omase Igala, Omaseda. So when people say this is where they come from, you have to accept it. You have to research. For you to counter, you have to research or call those who are professionally trained, for that matter, to do it for you. Now, let us even look at it. Let's go to the second one. The other fact, he said 8 quarter institutions. There is no cosmological sense or no cosmological meaning attached to 8 villages in Igbo land. The cosmological attachment to the fullness, when an Igbo community has come to the height of its existence, to the height of its population, outside that any other thing is Jara, is 9. Ebu, Itenani. There are some ritual numbers. Ritual numbers. The Igbo had ritual numbers. You have 3. You have 7. You have 9. You have 1. These are defined ritual numbers. You have 25. They are defined ritual numbers in Igbo cosmology, which have defined meanings. So it is not 8, it is 9. Like my own time, Ibusa Ebo Iteneni, even though we have 10 villages now. The original concept of Ibusa as the largest indigenous town in Anioma land. We're not talking about towns urbanized through immigrants like Abo and other areas, maybe Asaba. But we are talking of the largest, the most populous indigenous town in Anioma land. It is Ibusa. It is Ibusa Ebo Iteneni. The issue of 10 quarters now came, as I started earlier, came in 1940s when Umwe people protested to colonial masters of the domination, intimidation of one of the popular warrant chiefs, Upio Konjimpi, protested that they wanted to be on there, and the colonial master gave them the sanction. So Umwe became the 10th quarters in Ibusa Ebo Iteneni. And when you're also talking about Ogidi, it is Ogidi Ebo Iteneni any last time. And for those who wrote Chinua Achebe, even though Chinua Achebe things fall apart, which of course he adopted from his own Ogidita, he will tell you Umuofia Ebo Iteneni. That's to tell you the heights of that particular community. So first, the issue of 8 is not cosmologically, historically, customarily, and culturally an accepted dictum in Igbo land. So he failed there. Then we are coming about the issue of let us even yes, let us he spoke about title taking. We are not talking about title taking, which was spread. But title taking was, yes, it is an Igbo institution, but we also have to accept the fact that not all parts of Igbo are engaged in also title taking. It is concentrated mainly in the present Anambra State, northern part of Imo State, or low, then you move to Udi part of Enugu State. Outside these enclaves, the other areas of Igbo land do not accept the title social title system as we have it. And again, the title systems come by means of evolution, adaptation, and acculturation. So it does not define one's origin. It doesn't define one's origin. Today in Ibusa, in Asaba, in all the where we take the Eze title system and the other title, immigrants from Benin, from Asian, from Igala, they also take the same title. Just as we have the obiship today, the monarchical system today, among Anoma people, not all those people who are made Obi today trace their origins, their ancestry to Benin Kingdom. Not all of them. There were people who were indigenously appointed by Oba of Benin. Not those, not imposed. And that is, of course, that is the case of most Anoma people, Anoma kings. They were given the option of bringing an Obi, a king for themselves, to be confirmed by the Oba of Benin. So it does not translate to origin title system. So that is one of, okay. Our Obuzor talked about Igele masquerade. Igele masquerade is a pure Igbo masquerade meant for sociocultural entertainment. Asaba has no Igele masquerade. Asaba has no Igele masquerade. That is what we have to understand. Asaba has no Igele masquerade. Asaba has Egugu, which is called a gala, spiritual masquerade, ritual masquerade, which comes out on special occasions, not for social entertainment. In the olden days, women were not supposed to see the Egugu. And the Egugu language today, their ritual language is Igala, not Igbo. I can see the Egugu in Opanam, in Ebu, in Ila. These are called Igala settlements with Igala, strict, close Igala connections. Then if you go to Onitsha, you also see the same Egugu in Igala communities in Onitsha, present Onitsha. You go to Obikboro, they have Egugu there. You go to Ubelekeke, they have Egugu there. You go to Obotu, they have Egugu there. Although they call their own, is it Izuafia or yes, or whatever. That's what they call their own, but that is the situation, you know. So when you're talking of okay, what is this? He said Ijele masquerade. Ijele masquerade originated from Umuleri. That Ujele masquerade in Ugulan originated from Umuleri. Just like in Newi and other areas, other here like Ikusigo, they have Ajofia masquerade. Ijele emanated from Umuleri. Umuleri is an Igala settlement, but not the Igala section originated the Ijele masquerade. Ijele masquerade originated from Umudiana, quarters of Umuleri town, which they call themselves Umueri now, but historically we try to maintain the original term in which we are used to. Yes, in which we are used to. So Umudiana quarter in Umuleri are the custodians, the founders and custodians of Ijele masquerade. And Ijele masquerade is not a ritual masquerade. It's for culture, socio-cultural entertainment purposes. So my traditional ruler was wrong. He was wrong when he's talking about Asaba people, trying to criticize Asaba people over their own identity. The people had no king. Diaba was never the daughter of Eri because there's no relationship. Nteje was not a direct descent. If you are not talking of those communities that have direct descendants, that were direct descendants of Eri, Nteje was not among. They was not among those direct, those who putative descendants, who say, yes, putative descendants, assumed descendants. Nteje was not among them. Nteje is not part of the Umueri clan. You can say Iguedo, consisting Okozo, consisting Obunike, Nendo, but these are also questionable. Because who did Iguedo marry to? If we take it that way, an Igbo man. Even Okozo, Okozo that is classified to be Iguedo, is also false. Because Okozo was actually, the progenitor of Okozo was actually an Oka man who came there for his blacksmithing activities, and subsequently impregnated one of the daughters of that area, and then I call it Okozo Emegolum. That is the fire, the fire of blacksmithing had given me gift, and that's Okozo. That's how we got Okozo. So there are a lot of misinformation based on the oral tradition, oral history, founded on selfish purposes, or whatever, on unreasonable rivalry over towns, over supremacy purposes, just for that. So Nteje has no direct link with Eri, much more having Diaba as a state daughter of Eri. So in fact, now let us even look at my Obuzor of Ibusa. Obuzor of Ibusa, yes, from Ibusa. But as I said earlier, like Asaba, like most communities in Igbo land, in Edo land, in other places, Ibusa, people often make the mistake of saying Ibusa is founded by two sections, with Sioux people and people. It's wrong. Ibusa is founded, as I made it known several times, Ibusa is founded by people of different origins, multiple. In years, it's one section because they live together to form Ugoli quarters. But you also know that not all the people of the present Ugoli quarters are from the origin. A lot of people migrated and settled there. A lot of people migrated and settled there and joined them to become. But even at that, the above section of Ibusa is as much populated as in the section. Except that they are scattered into villages, but are populous. The Benin section are populous. The Asian section there are populous. Even though some of them try to, some of the communities try to play down their identity outwards. But in and above people are very, very clear. Very, very clear of their own identity. The Kwale people there, the Asaba people there, the Owashi people there, the Obolo people there. They're there. The Akuku people there, the Okpana people there, it's Islam people there. I'm talking about Ibusa. Ebudu Aka people there. Then Obio people there. So Ibusa is a not just only multi-ethnic, but a multi-group, a medley of people of different origins forming in Ibusa. And the Obuzor of Ibusa belongs to the remote Benin section. He belongs to what we say, he comes from Umualofe, village in Umueze quarters. And Umualofe, his progenitor, came from Obolono. In fact, Alofe came as a native doctor to cure the daughter of Ezehume of Umuedem, the great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather of C.J. Obiora, one of the known personality, now late, earlier times, who traveled to the United Kingdom and lived there, C.J. Obiora, and one-time President General of Ibusa Union. That's what Ezehume, in the process of performing his traditional medical medicine, he ended up impregnating Ezehume's daughter. And for that reason, Alofi was told that he will not go back to Burundi, but must marry that lady. And after marrying, after forcing them to marry, after forcing them to marry the daughter, they were asked to vacate with them and go to another section of the town, because, of course, it is sacrilegious for you, for your daughter to, after marriage, to be within the same village with the husband. So they move to another section where the populations are very tiny, Umu Idogu, and then they live with Umu Idogu, as is normally the case. With their population increasing, with the increase in their population, they now took over Umu Idogu and now became Umu Alofe. That was how. Now, the issue is that, yes, it's established within Ibusa historical tradition that Alofe came from Benin. Alofe came from Obulono. But where did Obulono come from? I know that my friend, Professor Emmanuel Mod of Delta State University, Department of His House, worked on his from Obuluku, and he worked extensively on that area. But that is not the issue we are talking about. Of course, he has established the fact that even Ubuluku, before the emergence of Ezemu, their progenitor, they were already settled Igbo and Benin people there. So Ezemu only came, dominated, and then assumed the position of progenitor. So it means that at the time Ubuluku, Ezemu, and Obodo, his brother, founded Ubuluku and Obulono respectively, that there was already Benin influence. Benin people were already migrating into Igbo land. They were already settled among Igbo people. As you see the case of Ikelike, Akuku Igbo, and other areas, and Ibuzor and Asaba. So Benin people were already settled. Obodo, who was Obodo? They migrate. You see, these people, Ubuluku and Obulono, migrated. Okay, let me start from this point. Ubuluku and Obulono belonged to what we call Afo. They belong to Afo clan. They migrated from the present Ndokwa East local government area, particularly from Obetim Ono in Ndokwa East local government area. And they form part of the greater Afo clan communities that constitute a number, about, let me even look at it, there are about 11 communities. When you add Obulono clan, when you add Obulo clan, there are about 11 communities that constitute Afo clan. Generally, most of which are in the present Ndokwa East local government area. Let me even, you have Obulono, yes, Ubuluku, Ubulokiti, Iselegu, Obetimuna, Obodibo, Obochi, Okolori. You have Okolori, you have Umuachia, you have Umuachia Ogo, and have Umuopala. These were descendants of Afo. Who was their progenitor? Their progenitor was known as Etim Uku. And who was Etim Uku? Etim Uku was the younger brother of Opute, the founder of Obuzor town in Isoko North local government area. Obuzor is the traditional or the most prominent town of Isoko of Isoko nation, Isoko ethnic group today. Obuzor was founded by Opute and named after his wife Obuzor. So Etimuku and Opute, who founded Obuzor, were siblings who migrated from Benin. Etimuku and Opute migrated from Benin. And we can now see when people now say that when Uguta people claim Abo people claim they are Benin, people will doubt them. Because, like, you see Opute name, the former Justice Opute, named Opute. You have Opute in Abo, you have Opute along that, along Oberu, Asaba, Opute. Yes, Opute is not Igbo name because there is no definite etymology of Opute within concise or general Igbo language vocabulary. So Opute is a non-Igbo name, and we have confirmed it. If the founder of Obuzor is named Opute, then definitely Opute should have emanated from Benin. So Opute and Etimuku migrated from Benin, and that is how we're able to link the position. So that's where today I established that Obuzor of Ibusa is of Benin ancestry. If he doesn't know, I am not telling him now. And so he cannot claim to be more Igbo than any other person, including the Asaba of Asaba, who has proudly proclaimed his Igala identity. And when Asaba people say they are of Igala identity, yes, based on patrilineal descent, because Igbo land is patrilineal, it is the identity of your father that defines your ethnic identity. If you are in the Yoruba land today, your mother is Yoruba and your father is Igbo. Definitely, unless over time you decided to align with your father's, but that should be not even your generation, but that should be from your grandchildren. It's only your maybe you cannot. Oh, but generally you are primarily an Igbo man because your father is an Igbo man. So since Onojopo is a Igala, definitely as our people have the right to claim that the Igala. That is even when we are talking about the Obuzor of Ibusa. Now, what of the Idumuju Uboko, the home of Ned Nwoko? Idumuju Uboko is a pure Edo mixed with Yoruba communities. Idumuju is an Asian word. It's not Igbo word. In fact, Idumuju Uboko, which is a letter in a well-lettered community, they have an official website constructed by the UK Union, United Kingdom Union, that clearly stated their origins, several origins, that are beneath their Asian. Yoruba, for example, one of the quarters of Idumuju Uboko, Atoma, is defined as having originated from Owo, in the present Edo State. Some from Emu, while others from Uzebu, back to Zebu, they now moved to the Asian to come and settle there. Now, the Obi Anyasi he employed to cannot claim that he is not of Eastern origin, because both Idumuju, Ono and Idumuju Uboko have direct boundaries. In their northern boundary, they are bound in the north by a Wohimi and a Igala and Edo speaking, Asian speaking community, a Wohimi. And it's from a Wohimi that Idumuju Uno migrated to settle there. They opted to they found together. Idumuju Uno is bilingual. They speak Asian and Isan and Igbo. And in fact, Idumuju Uboko specifically migrated from Eguare quarters, Idumuje village in Eguare quarters, in Ewohim, just close to them, Isha. Idumuje, they migrated from Idumuje village in Ewohim quarters. And if they are claiming today that they come from Uzebu, it is because Ewohim quarters, Eguare quarters, claim to have migrated from Uzebu, Benin, to that Asian location. So we don't have, these are people, the two traditional rulers have no local standing to speak on behalf of Anyama traditional rulers, because both of them are progressive traditional rulers. Obuzor just was created as a representative of Ibusa, 1995, by Delta State government, military government, 1995. So it's a proxy traditional ruler. The Obi Idumo, Obi Charles Anyase III was also a creation of colonial government. His father started as Odogu and was sent on errand to Onicholana to represent the ruler of the town. Who was then ruling, sent on area saying Ohene cannot travel outside always without rituals. Send that. He went here to Onicholana after meeting with the colonial masters and other traditional rulers over the Ekume settlement of the crisis that emanated from the return from Ekume uprising. He came back to announce to the people that the colonial masters had recognized him as a Obi, as a king of Idumuchuno. That was how he assumed it. He was originally Odo, and that is why he's the third in line of that succession. So these are proxy traditional rulers who are not strongly attached to the customs and traditions of people. And that is why they can easily go on air before the public and make sweeping statements about the origin of other communities, other traditional rulers, without recourse to its ritual, customary, and traditional implications. People of Igbo cannot come and start telling other people that all Anema people are Benin because he claims to be Benin. No. No Obi can do. No Obi who sees his office as a ritual entity within the confines of Anioma customs and tradition. No traditional ruler will come and do so and tell us that we must go to the east. On what? On what basis? The Obuzor of Ibusa cannot tell Ibusa people where to go. Neither can the Obi of Idumuju Uboko, because Moko gave them money. Anioma kings are not used to collecting money bribed from politicians to lie. So both traditional rulers lied against the sanctity of their position as traditional rulers of Anioma land. And they did so because there's no ritual sanction, no ritual taboo surrounding their respective offices that defines lying as sacrilegious within the office. Asaba is rich in their history. We know that, like every community, there have always been that versions arising from misinformation, misinterpretation, and loss of memory, what we call amnesia in history, because of oral tradition over time had to be modified, because of intervening interest, personal interest, intervening group interest, domination, or the other. That is the position. But Asaba, as far back as 1875, Bishop Ajay Crowther, who was then the bishop on the Niger, gave us the first history of Asaba people. Then in 1879, Reverend Isaac Spencer now gave us a comprehensive history of Asaba. In 1880, Bishop Crowther again gave us another version of Asaba history. Maybe I will quote this one so that we know where the Obuzor of Ibusa lifted the half-truth he stated. Because the issue in question is not whether Asaba people came from Monteja. We know that in 1912, as recorded by Professor Elizabeth Isiche, the New Zealand-born historian married to Dr. Isiche of Asaba, in his article on Asaba polity to 1885, he made it known that in 1912, some elders from Nteje visited Asaba and asked Asaba people to come back to Nteje. And Asaba people we have settled. Moreover, that notwithstanding, Asaba people is not only made up of Igala people. Asaba people is made up of some Igbo elements, some Igala elements, Igala constituting the majority. We're also talking about Benin elements there in Asaba. You have Asian elements there in Asaba. So just like Ibuzor, Asaba is a multi-ethnic a multi-group settlement. People. It's a melting pot like Ibusa. Melting pot. Even we're not even talking about the Nupe people, because Cable Point is a melting pot of different people different people there. There were Hausa people there. There were Nupe people there, whose descendants are still living. You have even people Abo. You have people from Ijo there, settled Igala people. They have their different family quarters today. They still hold their meetings today, which they started long before in the 19th century. For those who are familiar with some exploration of the bus travel and other explorations by Becky and other explorers, you find that Alheri, one man, was taken by the British explorers, where British explorers, church missionary explorer, one Alheri was a servant of the Obi of Abo. He was a servant, and he acted as interpreter for them, and also man at that time. So that is the nature of Asaba you are talking about. So when the Anglicans finally moved from Onitsha to Asaba in 1875, they started to study the history of their people. And we're going to look at it. Let me just read some portions of it so that, to bring down the credulity of some credulous elements who are always looking at ways to pick fault from whatever somebody says, which runs contrary to their fixated mentality. Now, as I said earlier, we can get much of this information concerning our history from 1875 to 1902, to even beyond, to 1900, even beyond, at CMS archives, now located at Cadbury Research Library, University of Birmingham, United Kingdom. You get most of the information on Asaba and Anioma history on that area. You can also have for example, the first white man that visited Ibusa from Onitsha was in 1874, before the Anglicans finally settled out. That's the first white man that visited my town was in 1874. So by the time they came, they took some history, some accounts of the people. Let me even say, let us look at Ajayi Crowther's report? Yes, Ajayi Crowther's report. What did I talk? I want to see if I can lay hand on Ajayi Crowther's report on the history of Asaba, because Ajayi Crowther made 2 reports on the history of Asaba, and then before Spencer also gave his report. Yes. Well, in 1875, let me report Ajayi Crowther's letter to the church missionary societies, church missioners, on his observation of Asaba history. Let me quote him from the archives. It was his letter then to the secretary of Church Missionary Society in UK, Reverend Egan Lang. It's dated August 31, 1875. And I read, according to Bishop Crowther, he said, "I found the people of that place, Asaba, claim relationship to Benin, which they call Idu, and the king Oba, to whom they still retain great veneration. Tradition says they were obliged to migrate from that kingdom from causes of war, some generations past. The king of Onitsha, he's now talking about, he's now moving to Onitsha within the same report, the same letter. The king of Onitsha said that their forefathers came originally from Odo, not Ado. He said Odo, O-D-O, Odo, and were compelled to cross to the left side of the Niger on the borders of the Igbo country, whose language and habits they have since adopted. Mind this, on the border, Onitsha was situated on the borders of Igbo country, whose language and habits they have since adopted. Their word for salutation is Do, the same as Asaba and Ado and Benin. The Igbo, this is very, very important. I'm talking about a letter written, dated August 31st, 1875. The Igbo proper do not acknowledge the people of Onitsha and Asaba, as well as Alenso, as their pure race. Unquote. Let me repeat this area by Ajaikra. He said, the Igbo proper do not acknowledge the people of Onitsha and Asaba, as well as Alenso, as their pure race. Unquote. But of course, I don't know where Alenso lies now, but that was Bishop Scrada's statement. So Bishop Scrada is telling us that at that time, the present Southeast Igbo do not regard the present Anioma people, including us, as pure Igbo. Of course, this this actually right, because if you go further into Igbo history, find that our people from Onitsha down to our people were never called Igbo by the Igbo people. They were known as Olu, but our people were regarded as relatives of, as friends or kinsmen of Igbo people. And that is why Igbo will now talk about Olu Igbo. Olu Igbo, Olu and Igbo are kinsmen, are brothers, are kinsmen. That is clear in Igbo cosmology of identification, ethnic delineation, and identification. Olu and Igbo. This is cosmologically defined. So there's that dualism of identity between the present Anioma people and Igbo, back into Igbo customs and tradition, back into Igbo history. Olu Igbo. And for those who, as I stated earlier, those who understand Kulano tradition, we always hear those blessing, those performing the rituals of Kulano breaking, talking about Igbo, Ebukwana Olu, Olu, Ebukwana Igbo, Makana Igbo no Olu, Bumwene. Let Igbo not kill Olu, and let Igbo not kill Olu people, and let Olu people not kill Igbo people, because Olu and Igbo are kinsmen. So there's that delineation. So when people come in, and as I said earlier, and that was the source of the name of my town, Ibusa. Because the people that my people lived among were not pure Igbo. They are mainly Igala, Benin, and other people. So they considered my people as pure Igbo against the Olu identity. And that was why they referred to our people as Igbo Binuzor, the Igbo people living on the road. That within the confines of us, or around the confines of Ibusa settlement, they were people who did not consider themselves as Igbo, as Ibusa people did. So that's what we have to learn from this Ajayi Crowther's letter of 31st August, 1875. Now, before we go to the main work of Isaac Spencer and Edward Phillips were the two Anglican missionaries that pioneered the Anglican mission in Asaba. They started the Anglican mission in Asaba. Edward, a white man, and then Isaac Spencer, an Igbo from Sierra Leone, of Igbo mother and Yoruba father. That's Spencer, who wrote the Araba and Arabians. Now, in 1880 annual reports by Bishop Samuel Ajay, again to the Anglican Mission headquarters in United Kingdom, complaining about the problems they are encountering. This was what he wrote about Asaba. And I quote, "The people of Asaba are offerings of two distinct nations, namely of Benin on the west and of the Igbo on the east bank of the Niger. Consequently, they participate in the customs and superstitions of both nations. This is the foundation of our difficulty." Unquote, Ajay Crowther. So Ajay Crowther again acknowledged that Asaba is made up of two groups of people. Here, Igala was not mentioned. Two groups of people, and two groups of people of different nationalities, the Igbo and the Benin, and the Edo Benin. That was his own statement there. Now, that was 88. There, before that, this thing, Reverend Spencer has also written his long treatise on Asaba, titled Araba and Arabians, dated December 1879. And of course, it is a long, but let me just read the relevant part, which is a bit long, but to allay the fears of those who might question the authenticity, the logic of what I'm talking about. Let me just read it. Dated 1879 by Reverend Isaac C. Spencer, the assistant resident pastor for the Anglican Mission in Asaba. And I quote, "About 150 years ago, there lived in Ntemese." That's what he wrote, Ntemese, not Integer. Ntemese, Ntemese, in Igbo land, a great chief whose son Nebisi, in Igbo land, a great chief whose son Nebisi, the great progenitor of Araba people, here Asaba is known as Araba, was early trained in his companions, and to the use of arms, and in time excelled his companions in all martial pursuits. He one day slew a prince of the blood in a quarrel that originated in the blood, in the prince being offered, in a quarrel that originated in the prince being offered some insults. Sorry, their style of writing in that area is different from the English language. Has actually undergone a lot of revolutionary changes in semantics. So reading them, there are some locutive variations with respect to what we read about English language today. He one day slew a prince of the blood in a quarrel that originated in the prince being offered some insults to his betrothed, and therefore escaped with her to avoid certain and agonizing death. He crossed the Amambala, a tributary of the Niger, in the forest, during which time his skill in hunting kept them both from hunger. He swam over to Araba, the river Niger at that time being not more than 50 yards in breadth. A sacred stone that he brought over with him, as is reported, was put on the spot where he first set his foot on land. On the spot where he first set his foot on land, where he first set foot on land, and that stone called Onire. Onire, that's the present Onishe, the major deity of Asaba. Onishe, known as Onishe, which is dedicated to the river Niger. Onire. So at that time, it was Onire, not Onishe as we pronounce it today. You can see that even the dialectical, you can see the dynamics of the dialectical changes within Asaba community itself, from Re to She. Onire has ever been the chiefest of Araba superstitions. He continues. Nebisi immediately selected a convenient spot and built a house to which was attached a garden. In course of time, 6 stalwart sons were born to him. This is a name, Afaji, not Ajaji. Now it's known as Ajaji. Afaji, Onoje, which is now Onaje. But we know that Onaje is Igala. It's Onoje. He wrote Onoje, but it's now Onaje. Ubuma, Ago, and Ojife, who took them wives of the daughters, wives of the tribes, of the neighboring tribes, and begat sons and daughters. And these, the ancestors of the present, and these are of the ancestors of the present people of Asaba, unquote. Now let us look at it this way. Now Araba and Arabian, he has told us about the king of Integer. We know that by Integer tradition, there was no king at that time, because there was no king in Igbo land. We also know that by Integer tradition agrees with Asaba, that it was their mother that was of Integer origin and not their father. That is, so there's no conflict this time between Integer tradition and Asaba tradition over who the mother of Nebisi was. And there's no tradition of Integer that defines Nebisi as being the son of their chief or the son of a man from Integer. And even if we are now accepting that Nebisi's father was from Integer, definitely that also qualifies Asaba people to be identified as Igala in origin, because their father was of Igala origin. So that is what we're now talking about. Now, he talked about 6 villages. Asaba has only 5 villages now. So what happened to Ojife village? We know there are people who are talking about Ojife. So what happened to Ojife quarters, which was existing at that time? And by 1879, there was Ojife quarters in Asaba, making it. Now Asaba has 5 quarters. What happened? He did not even mention is it Aiba or something? Another quarter, which Asaba tradition says was Aiba was the first son of Nebis. They did not have children. But we have some people now who are claiming that Aiba had children, and part of his children form part of Umuaku quarters again, and they're agitating for their own separate quarters. So between that 1879 and present, there have been a lot of changes over even the structural definition of Asaba lineage system, from 6 quarters to 5 quarters. And then there are also some revisionist elements of it. Well, but the point is this: Asaba tradition confirms that Nebis, even though Nebis was not the original settler in Asaba today, as with other areas, well, in modern context now, those who define as progenitors are often those whose descendants often dominate the rest by population, and then thereby taking assuming the general character and collective identity of the people. So Asaba Nebis was not the original settler of Asaba. As we stated earlier, his mother was the housemaid to Ezanyanwu. Interestingly, Ezanyanwu was among the 3 original settlers of Asaba. You have Ezanyanwu, you have Umu Esugboma, then you have Ukwe. Now, Esugboma should be separated from the Ugboma, son of Nebisi. The Ugboma, son of Nebisi, is identified as one of the 5 quarters now of Asaba, known as Ugbomanta. The Nta there was put there to differentiate it from the main Esugboma. Both the original settlers, these original settlers, Umwezanyanwu, Idumugboma, and some Oko elements form part of the Umuagu quarters today, within the axis of the police, the A Division Police headquarters to government primary school, then up to the point of Cable Point. So that's where they settle. They form part of Umuagu village now, this original center. And of course, for Idumu, for Umwezubuma, they pursue what is known as Obodachala today. And part of them migrated to form the present Ezionum town in Okwane local government area. That's it. Why Okwe now moved further to settle in that place. They are settled now, which was as I don't have time to read it, but as Spencer reported, it was as a result of war that made Okwe people to move further into those areas which were which is described as protected by swamps, thick swamps from invasion. Okwe people to go and live. Why some part of Umwezubuma moved to Achala, to just Oboda Achala, and some moved to Ezionum, while Ezubuma remained there. So these 3 original settlers form part of Umuagu, and Umuagu again, Agu being defined as the areas of the whole communities again, the whole Asaba quarters again, is where these people, these communities also now stay. We also know even in the Okwe people are also spread. So not only in Asaba, we found Okwe people. When our people came, Okwe people were among those they first met. When our progenitors came, they were the first people the founder of my town, Ishite, met. Even though it is erroneously claimed today that Umeje founded Ibusa, whereas it was Ishite. He met Okwe people, some of them form part of Ezuku quarters today. So there are also Okwe in Ogwashuku, which constitute a very large village in Ogwashuku, Umokwe, Abo, Umokwe, and so on and so forth. They've been there. So they all constitute the wider Okwe communities that spread around as a result of the war between Igala people and Okwe people. So Igala now conquered and took over the land. And if you look at it, if you look at the rail, I found out the rail there, it means that Asaba has metamorphosed from rail to share, from share to sa, even to ha, because the issue of ahaba, ha is actually the generic dialectical expression of Ibusa people, whereas the original ra is for Igala people. You can see it, Ila, which is an ancestral town, connected ancestral town. Ila still maintain Ra today. So Ila still call Asaba people Araba. And where Ibusa people say Ha, Ira people normally say Ha, that also define their connection with Asaba. So that Araba was the original name. And that Araba does not actually does not actually indicate that it was Nebisi, it was an integer term. So that is the point. So this man, Spencer, did not even tell us how the name Araba came about. He did not tell us in his later in his account. So in oral tradition, it takes a historian to critically collaborate existing accounts with available evidence. You could see from the 3 oral traditions that the first people that Bishop Crowther interviewed were actually those who might have originated from Benin among Asaba people. And they gave him that impression. I interviewed again. The second interview borrowed with the earlier evidence of Benin settler, founders of Asaba. He met some people who now told him that, oh, Igbo people. So he concluded that Asaba was made up of 2 people, the Benin and Igbo. So even though if we now say that Asaba is an Igbo town, what about those people defined by Crowther as Benin today? Because we have like Idumu, Odigbe, and many other villages in Asaba who still maintain their Benin origin in Asaba. There are some who are of Asian origin. So there are some, but Igala people are the dominant group in Asaba. Igala people are the dominant group in Ila. The Igala people are the dominant people in Ebu. The Igala people are the dominant people in the 2 Okala towns. The Igala people are the dominant people in the Oko clan. So that area, that axis, that right bank of the Niger, from Ila, even when you talk of Nzam, the headquarters of Anambra West local government area, Nzama Anam, which is directly opposite Ila, Nzama Anam, through to Onitsha, to Obaru, Osomale, they're all Igala, related communities, not Igbo. They were known as Olu by the Igbo, Ndi Olu. I can also see that from the title of traditional ruler of Osomale today, known as Atamanya of Osomale. Is Atamanya Igbo? Is it not Igala? So we must understand that within the context of the meaning and origin of the word Asaba, it is likely that it was an expression either imposed by outsiders or borrowed from somewhere, but not definitely of Igbo origin. Ahaba may say Ahabam. They could have said Arabam. Yes, Arabam. But what is Arabam? What is that? Is Arabam the dialectical tradition of Igbo east of the Niger? And what is the meaning? So that is issue we have to conclude today. That by ethnic definition, Nebisi was Igala. When we go by paternal affiliation in accordance with Igbo tradition of inheritance. When you go further remotely, his mother from his mother, Diaba, was from Integer. And Integer, even as Obuzor wrongly stated, which even fell in line with my own line of argument, that Diaba was the 3rd daughter of Ori. If we assume that Diaba was the 3rd daughter of Ori, fine. It also makes her Igala again, because Eri was also Igala. So Diaba, from Obuzor's interpretation, is also Igala. If we take it, based on Obuzor's thesis, or the hypothesis of the origin of being the father of Diaba. Yes. But then, taking it further to the origin of Integer people. Integer people who are known as hunters of leopards. I know that leopards are strong animals within Igbo cosmological context. That when you're killing a leopard, it's like killing a powerful enemy. In Ibusa, those days, if you kill a leopard, if you've not taken an Obu title, you have to take one automatically. And the head was always brought to the Kwela of Ibusa as a chief warrior as a king warrior of Ibusa. Just as the head of every man, every enemy killed in war was brought before the Kwela of Ibusa. So Nteje people as hunters of leopard, were claimed as strong people, as strong warriors. And that is why Nteje people in their acronym, in their president, they call it Nteje Abogo. Nteje Abogo. Nteje the warriors, people with the heart of warriors. Because it's only somebody with heart of warrior that can hunt leopard. That is the source of it. Nta eje, hunters of leopard. Because as I pointed out earlier, leopard is eje in Igala. If there is anybody who can give us the other accepted meaning or collaborative meaning of Nteje, the etymology of the word Nteje, after what I've stated, such a person is welcome. And let us also conclude by saying that the fact that Nebisi is recognized as the founder of Asaba is based on his putative paternity to the larger and now dominant section of Asaba settlers. So Nebisi as a progenitor is a progenitor to the larger section of the town. As we said in case of Ibusa, in Ibusa, Umeje was not the founder of Ibusa, but because his children became dominant, he now assumed the title of putative progenitor. Odaibo was just a visitor at Ogwashoko. Ikerike people were already settled. But historians today will tell us that Adaibo was the founder of the progenitor of Ogwashoko people. I could say it generally that they have Adaibo as their national name. Okoliago, who now stands at the main square of Akuku Igbo town. I claim progenitor of Akuku people was not the founder of Akuku people. Umuopu people from Benin were already there. With Ogbo and the people from Igala were already there. Before Okoliago came as a farmer to stay very close to them, eventually developed. And we know that Akuku Igbo is also as multi-ethnic as it is multi-group, in settlement. Like Achala quarters in Akuku Igbo came from Ibusa, and a lot of them. So Akuku Igbo is a mixture of people from other areas too, like many other towns. If you have been talking about, there are many towns you talk about progenitor. Maybe Okpanam, we can say Okpanam is made up of two groups of people: the Okpa, the Anam people, and Uchi people. Fine. Ila is made up of people of different ethnic groups. Benin, Asian, Igbo, Nri people, but the Igala people are dominant. Ibu is virtually an Igala settlement, and they continue to maintain their Igala identity, both in names, both in character, and both in language. So Ibu is the center of Igala speaking community in Oshimiri North local government area today. Igala speaking community in Oshimiri North local government area, even though you see some of them bearing Igbo names, just as Olukumi, Ubodu, Ukunsu, actually the Yoruba center of Yoruba speaking community in Aniocha, not local government areas, Mwoko's local government area. They are speaking Yoruba today, Olukumi, they still bear Yoruba name. Some of them still bear Igbo name. And this is the local government Senator Nedunwoko belongs. This is the local government Ubi Charles Anyase of Idumujuno belongs. And they go out to tell everybody that Nwoko was on TV the other time telling all our Nema people are Igbo. Was it not an insult to even their own neighbors who are still speaking their Yoruba language? So let us conclude by saying that the Obuzor of Ibusa was wrong. Not only of his claim of identity as being an original Igbo man, because his ancestors came from Benin, by his attempt to challenge Asaba people and Asaba people frontally over their own Igala identity. Similarly, the Obi of Idumujun Uno, Obi Chasanyase, was also wrong in claiming that every part of Anioma are Igbo speaking. Whereas for him, He is of Asian. He's of Asian origin, and secondly, of Benin origin. These are the issues we face today. And I want people who listen, people from the Southeast, who are cerebral, who are intelligent, who are logical in their thinking, to patiently listen to Anioma people on the issue of their ethnic identity and not attempt to impose their narrow mentality of monoethnic identity on Anioma people. That is conquest mentality. When you try to impose your idea, even some with insults, unimaginable insults, is conquest or conquer mentality among them. And the normal people will not want people who never conquer them. And people who have no capacity under normal circumstances to conquer them militarily, to now decide their political future by trying to conquer them clandestinely through the spurious agitation of a spurious Anioma state, which we believe will not come to pass. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for taking patience to listen to me this time.